to do is to look at policies and different types of instruments that are open to us to realize that we can reduce climate change. These policies that we are given are very wide, as you would see, and of course in applying them it's due to national circumstances and national conditions within different countries, because it varies from country to country. But the report also tries to use some broad criteria that we can help countries to choose, and these criteria are the environmental effectiveness, the distributional effects including equity, because that is very, very important for most countries of the world. The difference between the rich and the poor. We do not want to reduce greenhouse gases and then we make the situation in the society even worse than it is today. And of course institutional feasibility. As you would see, that the previous graph, we listed quite a lot of policies that governments can take. And these policies that could create incentives for both producers and consumers to significantly invest in low GHG products. And these policies include, or may include, or for them to really become effective, different types of economic instruments, and also government funding, and different types of standards and regulations for them to operate. Now, for me to go on further, it would be interesting to realize that these policies do influence both technical and non-technical options, both technical and non-technical measures, because it is, as was said in the previous presentation by my colleague, it's not only technical ways exist to reduce greenhouse gases. And we definitely need to look at these types of policies. Even if we start with the different types of technologies to stimulate their development, their deployment in various parts of the world, under the umbrella of transfer of technologies from people who have the technologies and those who need those technologies. There are several aspects in terms of policies that governments can consider, starting from the financial aspects in terms of tax credits, in terms of using regulations, in terms of creating markets and try to make the markets as efficient as possible, and then, as usual, the normal situation in technology development. Now, however, to transfer technology involves one important point, because we should not forget also receiving technology is nice, but receiving technology implies that the countries that need this technology have the receptive capacity to absorb the technology. And for you to absorb the technology, you definitely have to have the local enabling conditions that's suitable to absorb the technology. So that is extremely important. The other aspect is the financing situation. You have to have the financing capacity to absorb technology, and this at times can create barriers for countries to absorb technology. Now let me just briefly mention one thing, that some of the policies that we discussed, some can look at the future for certain countries, some of the technologies can be, some of these policies can apply, we can apply them almost immediately. And they vary from sector to sector. Some policies are good for the energy supply sector, some are better for the transport sector, some for the building sector, because it's not all the same policies for the same different sectors, but we can discuss that during the discussion. Now, there's a very strong element of this report that we should not forget. And we started discussing it in the third assessment report, but we went quite further with these thoughts and concepts in the fourth assessment report. And that is the relationship between sustainable development and climate change mitigation. It is extremely important to note that really if we alter the way we develop our societies, if we alter the way we behave in our societies, especially within the economic, the environmental, and technical regimes, we definitely can also effectively reduce greenhouse gases. This is a very, very important point, which you can see in the view graph, which is summarized as follows: making development more sustainable and changing the future paths of development can make major contribution to climate change mitigation. This is something the report have found out. This is something the report believes in. However, we should not think it is the easiest thing to do. Mainstreaming development into the climate change regime or vice versa is not easy because there are multiple barriers. And these barriers fall into either technical, economic, social, institutional, different types of barriers that need to be removed. And if we look at the whole policy regime, there are also policies that can assist us to lessen these barriers, which is also discussed in the report. We also realize that despite there are synergies between sustainable development and climate change mitigation, there are also trade-offs between them, but there are also conflicts can arise between climate change mitigation and sustainable development. And we also fully analyze in the report how we can avoid those conflicts so that we ensure that the climate change mitigation, which is our main focus, is achieved. So in short, the report clearly identifies positive solutions to address climate change mitigation. We also do not forget that significant number of nations of the world have to develop. We do not say you should stop to develop and only emphasize climate change mitigation. We provide room for countries that have to develop to use certain measures to avoid the amount of GHG emissions they put in the atmosphere. We further provide for developed countries to take their necessary obligations in trying to contribute towards climate change mitigation. With that, this is in just trying to put more than 1,000 pages in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. The floor is now open for questions from the press. We have a couple roving microphones. Who would like to start us off? Okay, we have a question over here.
Sebastian Pett.
Sorry, I'd like to use the roving mic, which is coming your way. If you just please use the roving mics rather than the desk mics, and if you would kindly introduce yourself.
Peter Jansen, DPA, German Press Agency here. Mr. Bachawi, you said that this report or the outcome of this report will have a direct impact on the upcoming meeting in Bali at the end of the year, right? Can you spell that out a little bit? I mean, how so?
Well, I would say this would happen in two ways. Firstly, through the enhanced awareness among the public on the extent of climate change that the world can expect and the impacts of it, as well as if you look at the direct contribution of the Working Group 3 report, which clearly identifies measures that could be adopted for mitigating emissions of greenhouse gases, and also the relatively low cost at which you can implement those measures. So this is one set of impacts that you would really have through awareness among the public. And secondly,